Hey guys, my name is Nabiri and it's time for another Since Saturday, and today I'll be doing another feedback session. And we're gonna kick this off with the primitive with Connect with the Stars.
Have you ever seen the night sky? We only see a fraction. The light dances across the sky like the pulse of the universe. Reminding us that the night sky is still there, waiting to be discovered.
Okay, let's just take a little break over here, and let's already just give some feedback to this. I really like the whole vibe that this is going for. You hear these orchestral breaks often in hardstyle, but you don't really hear them often in this kind of, I'd say, Mongolish, tribe-ish kind of vibe. So I really like that, but I would maybe suggest you do something else with the vocal. Put it down something lower, just maybe a little bit more distorted, and put it a little bit more in front of the rest of the mix. Apart of that, it sounds nice, and I really like that you don't really have a bass over here, and then after that, that bass comes in. So for now, I'm really interested on how this track is gonna sound.
Discovered. Connect with the stars.
Alright, so what I'm hearing right now is that that melody kinda isn't really consistent. It doesn't really tell a story like the intro is doing. So I suggest you either try to switch it out, or perhaps for the break, you might want to take the melody and really put it in there. So maybe before you do this build up over here, you just give this a little bit of a melody part so that you really hear the melody, and then you're gonna go through onto your build up and then to your drop. Because right now it just feels a little bit unclear where it wants to go, you know?
Connect with the stars.
So the kick itself is actually quite nice, but I do feel that when you're hearing that kick and that melody, that it kind of falls apart. But that's because in the leads, there isn't really anything that's a little bit more edgy, a little bit more screamy, like a top lead. So I suggest you might want to add like a top lead layer in there to just make it a little bit more interesting and a little bit more moving. And I also feel that maybe you could redo the reverb, or maybe make that a little bit bigger so that the whole drop still sounds a little bit more big. A part of that, I'm personally not really a fan of these arpeggiated drops, but that's my taste. just because it again just loses track to me where the track wants to go. So yeah, it sounds nice, but I do feel that you could maybe switch out the melody, give it a little bit more of a clear goal that you want to go for, and then you can start building the track around that story that you're telling, that you're really putting down in the intro, but I'm kind of missing that in the rest of the track. The rest of the track is just not as special as the intro is. Yeah, and the outro really doesn't fit the rest of the track or even the intro. So I suggest you switch out the outro as well. It sounds alright, the kick sounds okay, but it does need to have some extra layers to be just a little bit more fat, and the punch could also just be a little bit more balanced. But yeah, overall, I really like that vibe that you're putting down in the intro. It's just sad that it doesn't grasp me that much in the rest of the track. I really suggest you just switch out the melody and get something with a clear story, and then you can redo those drops and they will sound great. Next up, we got Vocaloid stuff. Okay, so this sounds nice and peaceful, and I like the chords and everything that you're doing. There's nothing wrong with that, but I do feel that you could have been putting the piano a lot more in front already and just drown it in reverb. Just make it sound big and huge, and then when that melody comes in, which sounds nice, it will sound a lot more floaty as well. And then when you have that vocal, because everything behind the vocal is really nice and floaty, you can put so much more reverb on top of that vocal as well. So I really suggest that you first of all put the piano a lot louder and give it a lot more reverb, and then after that you want to drown that vocal as well in that reverb, so that it's just a lot more floaty. You can get a really nice sound out of this without adding too much, but I think you have to be a little bit more bold with the mix down and really get things to stand out. Now, of course, I don't really understand this language, not at all, but you're now having two like vocal lines singing through each other, and one should take only the piano part, put it a little bit louder, and have that reverb fixed, just drown it in there, and you have that main vocal line nice and clearly in front with the huge reverb behind there. Then I would suggest you do that counter vocal line just a little bit more quiet, so that you have that main vocal line in front, and the rest is just floating somewhere behind in the background. So you want to maybe give that a little bit more reverb on the channel itself, so that it's just a little bit more wet and more in the background. Because right now, even though I don't understand it, so that doesn't help, but it doesn't really sound clear as where you want which vocal to be. If you either want one vocal to be in front or both vocals to sing at the same time. And if they sing at the same time like this, they kind of clash and they don't really give space to each other. Also, something that you might want to do is maybe put some more bass in here, just in general, and really try to build that drive a little bit, because even when that melody kicks in, there's still nothing really behind there that's gonna build the drive, and also it has a little bit too less bass. And maybe one layer or two layers that you want to put in here are just some plugs that are playing half time, so they're just putting some drive in there, because that's just something that I'm really missing right now. It's just a nice melody. The melody itself is nice, but it just takes so long for the track to get somewhere, you know? I have to say I really dig the melody though, so that's really nice. The melody is something that you did really nicely in this track, but I feel the sound design itself could just be a little bit more edgy. You have some chords in there, but you can really bring those out a lot more in front, and the top lead that you're having in there is just a little bit too static, so you might want to add another LFO or make the LFO that the top lead has just a little bit more moving, so that just moves a little bit more, sounds a little bit more interesting, and that will make the sound a lot more full. A part of that, when you're putting these chords a lot more in front, you're gonna notice that your leads are gonna sound bigger, but they can also get a lot more reverb. So you might want to, when you rebalance those leads, maybe get another top lead layer in there that's just a little bit less moving, that's gonna support your main top lead a bit more. And after that, you might want to add even more reverb to this, because, well, the kick sounds nice, the melody sounds nice, and it all flows really well, but it just kind of lacks. It's just a little bit too polite, you know? Also over here, you might want to really just put some snares in here, just some rhythm, something that keeps it going, you know, so that you're really living to that next drop. Also, something with these vocals is that I really suggest that you put that highest one far in the background, because for someone who doesn't understand the language, it's almost sounding like annoying squealing sounds. So no offense meant, but it's just a little bit too annoying to listen to when it's so much in your face. So I really suggest that you're putting that vocal a little bit more in the background. Okay, so you're also having these vocals in the drop, and I really like the drop. Even that melody alteration that you did is just sounding really nice. But I feel that when you're having that sound a little bit bigger, and you're having more reverb in there, then you can maybe put that vocal just in a better spot, because then you're gonna notice that it's maybe gonna get a little bit of a smaller space for the vocal, so you can put that vocal a little bit more in the background of the mix. And the final part of the melody, and when you're getting back into that main melody again, it just sounds nice and it sounds lovely, but because you're having these two vocal lines then singing and competing with your melody, it's just gonna sound messy. So I really suggest that you first of all balance the piano out, give it some more reverb, and just drown the whole thing with a nice huge reverb. And after that, I suggest you redo your layering and maybe get the lead to sound a little bit more big and also add a lot of reverb on there. But a part of that, it sounds really nice, a really lovely melody, and I have really much respect for the lady that sung this vocal, because I can never for the life of me get this high with my voice. So it is a nice track. And the final one we got is State 1 with Overste Etasje. Sorry if I butchered that. So the first thing I'm noticing already, just straight from the beginning, is that you can maybe put some more reverb on that plug, or maybe put a pad behind there that just sounds a little bit more in higher frequency, just a little bit more high mids, so that it just sounds a little bit more full. And also the top lead for your lead could be just a little bit louder, because right now it just sounds a little bit too much highs and not enough mids. And I feel that when you're making that top lead just stand out a little bit more, that could really balance it out nicely. Okay, so even though this track isn't too long, or we aren't really listening for it for too long right now, the melody already gets a tiny bit repetitive. It sounds like a great melody and it sounds nice, but it's maybe just a little bit too repetitive for my taste. You might want to filter it out and maybe make it come back during the build-up or just during the drop. A part of that, I feel that your vocal could just be a little bit more loud, just a little bit more in front of your mix. And yeah, I feel that maybe for the leads itself, you could either make your delay a little bit more loud or just drown it a tiny bit more in reverb. I feel that maybe if you're already using 2 reverbs, you might just want to make the reverb that's not sidechain just a little bit louder, because then it's just gonna drown a little bit more in reverb, and I feel that it kind of needs that. Also, maybe you could put that plug just a little bit louder, so that it's really a nice variation for the sound overall. I also really suggest you to just switch that melody out over here, or just make it a little bit more different, maybe add a harmony or something that's just a little bit more taking it to another place, you know, because right now I've been listening to the same melody on loop for about 2 minutes and it's just a little bit on the boring side. I feel that the screech could maybe just be a little bit more quiet and a little bit more behind the kicks. But I also feel that if you maybe raise the kicks in total just a tiny bit, just a small amount, and give your leads way much more reverb, that it would maybe sound better. Overall, it sounds really nice, but it's just maybe a little bit too repetitive for my taste. And it has a nice banging outro, so it's a good track to finish this off with. Now, I hope you like this and you learned something from this, and hopefully I'll see you back soon again. Cheers!